My name is Scaglione, and I am assistant conductor for the New York Philharmonic.
Bring me back to your musical upbringing. What was the role of your family in influencing your decision to go into music? What was their role in supporting you?
Well, I mean, my parents, although they weren't musicians themselves, kept great books and literature around the house and went to concerts, and a disaster caused them to bring me along one day for a performance, and I fell in love with music. And more than that, actually, I think I was 6 or 7 years old. I said something like, "Mom, I want to be that guy that's waving his hands around and makes the music happen."
But in fact, you started out on the trombone.
I did.
How did that work?
The way that worked was, we've got a very strong band system in Texas. You know, we're quite proud of it. And it's a great tradition. I mean, there's lots of band people from Texas that are out working in the world at the Met and all over the place. But they tricked me into playing the trombone. We knew nothing about what I was supposed to be playing. My mother knew that I had this musical talent, and the band director said to my mom that we put all of our smartest kids on trombone, and she said, "Oh, that's great. That must mean that Case is smart.
Yeah.
So let's get him a trombone."
Yeah.
I always wanted to be a conductor my whole life. I mean, from the time that I went to that concert, I always studied trombone, and all of my studies were with an eye towards one day actually becoming a conductor. So from a very early age, from the age of 13 or 14, I was buying scores and trolling through them.
Describe the workday of a conductor. I think most people don't realize what it involves.
Well, I mean, there's so much repertoire that we're responsible for, and the more and more time that goes by, the more music we're responsible for, because there's more being written all the time. I think conductors in our generation these days that are around and working are responsible for more material than people were, say, 60 years ago. So, you know, I'm in contact with music of some kind almost every day. I say probably 95% of my days out of a year I'm looking at music somehow. But a lot of it's just the practical aspect of traveling from place to place or going to work. I mean, an orchestra's week generally looks like 4 rehearsals and somewhere between a performance and 4 performances in a week. The studying, it is an intense week. I mean, it sounds like not much when you tally it up to 20-something hours, but the kind of work that it is much different than sitting at a desk, I think.
Right.
It's much more intense. So with something like the B minor Mass, a piece that I love, I know and love, but have never done before,
yes.
I started almost a year ahead of time. All pieces are different, but with something like the B minor Mass, which is a monstrosity, I mean, the piece is 2.5 hours long.
Yeah.
Or, excuse me, it's actually, a little under 2 hours, but it's a huge work.
It's a huge work.
I also have to prepare parts for it as well.
So you prepare parts. I think for viewers who don't know what that means, is you go through individual scores of the individual players and mark their parts.
Yeah. Yes. There's a lot of there's not very much information in early music. I think a lot of people, it's customary for conductors to bring their own parts up through to about Beethoven, because
bowings, phrasings, articulations.
Bowings and phrasing and dynamics. The instruments were much smaller then, so you have these balance issues where, in the olden days they would write a forte for the entire orchestra, but of course that's going to be different volume these days for an oboe as it would be for for a trumpet. Exactly. So there's some tweaking that has to be done to make the composer's original intentions come out. As presumptive as it sounds, marking in Bach's music, it serves a practical purpose.
Tell me what it's like to conduct the New York Philharmonic.
Oh man, wow.
What was the first time when you got up there? What was the piece? It was probably a rehearsal, obviously.
It was an audition.
It was an audition.
It was my audition. It was my audition, and it was. The funny thing is, I had never heard the New York Philharmonic live.
Live,
of course.
Right.
I mean, I grew up with those Bernstein Century recordings, like all of us did.
Right.
But
yes, I did too.
The picture with Lenny's face.
Lenny's face.
Yeah,
he's so charismatic.
And it was Brahms' First Symphony, and Kurt Masur.
That's so much your piece.
Well, Kurt Masur had just been there conducting this, so I've just I gave the downbeat, and there was this feeling of Masur all over them. This very kind of heavy Germanic sound, and I was just blown away. Alan was very nice.
Yeah.
When he auditioned us, he let us start with Brahms 1, which starts very loudly,
right?
Because we wanted to get all of the tension off of us at once.
Exactly.
And I just was blown away by the sound that this orchestra makes. Not just the power of it, but just the opulence and the force and the level of expression that they play with was unbelievable. And just getting to hear them every week is.
We're probably a little nervous for the audition.
Oh no, not at all. Oh no! I was terrified. I was terrified. But the thing about the New York Phil, this is something that I think is specific to them, is that they are, in a very real sense. I was talking to a friend of mine recently about this. They're, in a very real sense, able to reflect what is on the podium.
Yeah.
A lot of orchestras play very well, but it's kind of their own rendition of it. The New York Philharmonic very much is looking for leadership in a conductor.
When you're up in front of the New York Philharmonic, how do you balance your personality against all of those that you're conducting?
Well, I think a huge misperception among people is that the conductor is imposing their will or their musicality on the group.
So that's the old school way.
Well, no. I think regardless, I think the conducting certainly has changed over the last 150 years or however long people have been doing it, but it's much more of a passive activity and has much more to do with tapping into their musical energy. Mm-hmm. The responsibility is on the conductor to feel their vibe, because it's only from inside of their sound and inside of their mentality that you can influence them. So it's a very kind of paradoxical Buddhist kind of thing, that the way to really be able to influence an orchestra is to let their sound go through you with your ears open. How do you deal with the rigors of travel? Well, look, we live in a jet-set maestro era where you're going from week to week to week to week, and the market, I've only been in the business, professionally for going on, this is, my third season now, really, working, and the business pushes you, to fill the date books, to do more things. And Alan Gilbert actually told me this, and he was exactly right. He told me this before I really started traveling a lot. He said, you'll always have enough energy to conduct. And that's the truth. It's magic. I had a brutal spell, back in May, where I was doing a series of school days concerts with the New York Philharmonic, and I was conducting the Juilliard Orchestra at the same time. So I was having 4 or 5 services a day, 2 different programs. And this all culminated with the last concert, which was at Juilliard. And I remember I was in the middle of the concert, and I thought to myself, there was a fleeting moment where I thought, I'm actually not tired right now. I thought, God, I'm going to pay for this later. I knew it. Yes. But in that moment, whether it's rehearsal or anything, no matter how dreadful I feel, somehow I get myself straightened out and to neutral on the podium. It's a very odd thing.
It's great to have you here.
Thanks for having me, Joel.
It's great to have you as a friend, too.
Yeah, thanks for having me.